Spring was everywhere, and everything was green again with magnificent blossoms, busy bees and birds, chirping and pretty young women out in their front yards gardening for pleasure, wearing as little as was decently possible on this glorious, sunny day in another Palo Alto's upper middle class neighborhoods, where the young mommies didn't have to work to keep their homes lovely and clean and packed full of treasures. A part of him was disappointed nothing had changed since he had moved out. No boarded up broken windows, no scraggly weeds marring the perfectly manicured lawns, no broken down cars listing sadly in the driveways. Clearly everyone everywhere there was getting along quite well without him. Perhaps no one even noticed he was gone. Walking up to the house where he once lived, he still took a certain pride in the sturdy white picket fence which surrounded the yard his very young daughter played in. He built that and made sure the gate was strong and secure, keeping her safe from the horrors found too easily out in the world, keeping her in and the bad people out. The woman who opened the door was a stranger. He heard his ex had removed a young woman in to help her out now that he was no longer there. His ex had always been too busy with her own life to look after their young child full time. The woman said her name was Sheila and walked out of the room. Looking around as he waited for the stranger to get his daughter, he noticed how clean everything was, how the furniture was neat and dusted and very carefully arranged. It must be her doing, this stranger, as his ex had always been a slob, notorious for her indifference to domestic niceties. But maybe he was wrong. Maybe his daughter's mother was different now that he was out of the picture. And there were paintings on the walls he had never seen before. Strange images of wet flowers, layered up with wild, splashing brushstrokes in unnaturally vibrant colors. The overall effect was pleasant, but not at all quiet. The images seemed to dominate the room rather than accent it. "I've got her all packed up," Sheila said, as she walked into the room, clutching the 2-year-old's hand tightly. The little girl looked nervous as this woman handed him the small suitcase. This too was different. Normally the child had just been handed off to him without anything but the clothes she wore. He had always assumed it was meant to be a sort of punishment. His ex's attitude was that if he needed anything, he should just buy it. Whatever he purchased went back when his daughter did, but it was never seen again. Normally his daughter ran to him and jumped up to be held, but not this time. This time the child looked unsure. The stranger stared back at him hard and seemed reluctant to let go. "I've heard all about you," she said after a long pause. "You're not a good man. I'm not sure I should let you take her. She's my good little girl."
Wow.
Dear Alexander, I should apologize for my outburst at your cousin's wedding. As for this girl, she was a sweet little thing, okay? Naive in all matters of the world, but very, very sweet. But doesn't it surprise you that she wore white to her own friend's wedding? I understand it was supposed to be a pale pink, but the fact is, it looked white. I couldn't believe they hugged and smiled for photographs. I've been meaning to call your cousin. I doubt they are friends now. Listen, I know you're busy with your sports and your studies, but please call or write when you can. Perhaps it was wrong of me to leave early, but how could I have brunch with you and that girl? What on earth would we discuss, Andrew? Your brother is doing a fine job here, interning at the University of Wisconsin. He's making nice progress, earning good money. We ate at Cynthia's the other night. Pretty girl. You remember Tom Buckman? The chair of the Oconomowoc Country Club. Cynthia's his daughter. We need to find you someone like that. Someone with brains, someone with beauty. Your brother said she has a sister, Celia. She's on the other coast, but you know long distance is so romantic. Her address is 1801 Wall Street, Suite 103, Seattle, Washington, 98110. I'm sure she would welcome a letter. Cynthia said she's in her second year, studying education. Isn't that great? Teaching is such a great profession for a woman. Well, my book club meets in a couple of hours, and I need to finish a couple of chapters. We are reading Tender's the Night, Fitzgerald. Interesting. Have you read it? I'd be happy to send it to you. I have no use for it. Susan and I prefer the best-selling novels. I like to keep up with our times. Love, Mom. Andrew, it is approaching 3 weeks since I last wrote you. I've never had troubles with the Postal Service, but this is outrageous. I left you a message on your phone as well. Your brother stayed with me last weekend. You know him. He's always so quiet, reserved, studious, like your father. I made meatloaf and chicken casserole for him. I know you love both. I couldn't remember if his favorite was meatloaf or the casserole. We saw Benjamin's Buttons, a strange film, and I fell asleep twice. Your brother had to elbow me awake. He was embarrassed, I could tell. I must have snored. Oh, but it was funny, Andrew. You would have laughed, I know. He slept in past noon one day, and I peeked at what he was reading. He usually likes those textbooks and nonfiction, but he was reading a book on prose poetry. What does that even mean? I guess you didn't get my previous letter. I wish we could get brunch now. Just you and me like the old days. Wouldn't that be nice? I can make it to you in October. Mid-October. What do you think? Call me when you get this. Love, always, Mom. Dear Andy, your brother refuses to tell me how you're doing or whether you two are even talking. It has been over a month. I am your mother. Have you gotten my letters? Your voicemail is full. I called the dean, and she said your attendance has been average, so I can assume you are fine. Is this about that girl? The Florida girl? Andrew, we are family. We talk to each other. We make these decisions together. I don't want to control you. Remember that boy in grade school? Kyle, I think? I never chose your friends for you. Kyle was simply a bad influence. You agreed with that not at the time, sure, but you see that now. He was different, that's all. Different background, different lifestyle. This girl is Kyle. She will just distract you, just like Kyle did before I intervened, thank goodness. She's a perfectly good girl, okay, Andy? Don't get me wrong. She's great for a guy like Kyle, Colin even. I just think that you are too far along into your plan to let someone derail you now. We don't want to forget our goals. We are so close. You're so close, Andy. I can't stand by and watch you throw it all away on a girl from Florida. The point is, I'm worried about you. Your attendance could be better than average. I'm afraid to ask about your grades. Call me, okay? I'll give you your space. I can do that. I'll wait for you to call. But I just want to talk. Does that sound terrible? I'm your mother. Okay, I'm making meatloaf tonight, your favorite. I'll even eat it with the ketchup like you do, though my gravy is homemade and simmers for at least an hour. I love you, Mom. Andrew, I checked with the post office. Nothing was returned. The postwoman at Cornell, she says you pick up your mail daily. Daily? It is clear that you are ignoring me. Well, the choice is not yours to make, Andrew Mitchell. I booked my flight for October like we talked about. I'll be there on the 15th, whether you like it or not. You are acting like such a child. I called your cell this morning and couldn't get through. Have you changed your number? I don't even know how cruel you are to your own mother. And your brother will not discuss it with me. It is clear now where both of your loyalties lie. You two are like your father. I had a dream last night. I was in Florida. She was there. But she was wearing black, not white. Are you dating her? Is that what this means? Try to see things from my point of view, Andrew. It's bad enough she's overweight at 22 or 3, a couple of pounds at that age, and at her height, it's a lot. Her clothes for the wedding weekend made me think that she was one of the maids or the waitresses more than once. And then you asked me to have brunch with the two of you. We have brunch. Me, you, your brother. Brunch was ours. And you didn't even invite her to join us. You invited me to join you. I had no choice but to leave early. You see that now, don't you? Well, you can't avoid me forever, Andrew. Real mature of you. Two can play the silence game. See you in October. Best, Mom. P.S. I would like you to send back Tender is the Night to me. It's my book and I'd like it back. Andy, I suppose I'll just leave this under your doormat. I've been here for hours, writing and rewriting to you. You want to have the last laugh, do you? Well, laugh away, you ungrateful devil spawn, you! I don't mean that. Of course I didn't mean it. I named you. Did you know that? Your father didn't care, said we could name you Hill. Can you imagine that? Hill. I'm afraid to go home. The house is so empty, I can hear my sighs echo. I wish you'd come home. My mother's disappointment really and truly disabled me. I didn't tell you the details, but Grandma was a beast of a woman and she never protected me. She insists now that it was her way to love, but love shouldn't hurt. I don't think. That's all ancient history now, but I will tell you I never wanted to become your grandmother. What I'm trying to say is that I've done a lot for you and your brother, and I don't need a medal, but I would like a phone call. If you plan on not coming home, on not calling or visiting, on not seeing me at all, well, that will be an awful shame for you, because I simply won't allow it. I will see you. You can hate me, you can blame me for any and everything, so be it, but I will see you, Andrew. You are my son. You are my son.
Wow.